Hello, friends, and welcome to Level Up Live. It is wonderful to be here with you. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the conversation. Let's get started.
Welcome to Level Up with Winnie Sun. Award-winning financial pro. Get ready. Level Up with Winnie Sun.
Hello, friends. I'm Winnie, your host, an award-winning financial pro, a Forbes and CNBC contributor and CNBC council member, and it's wonderful to be here with you. I hope that you've been having a great week. This week has been so busy, so much news, so many things happening. But we are here and we're spending some time, quality time together. So thanks so much for being here live with me. And if you're joining me on replay, thank you so much for making the time as well. It's been a busy week. I didn't know if you got a chance, but on Monday, I had the opportunity to go back to Yahoo Finance and talk about money, personal finance, all the things that I love to do. So if you didn't get a chance to check that episode out, definitely do a quick search on Google or on my thread, and you should be able to catch that. I think you'll find it very helpful, especially for those of you who have kids going to college or who are in college. This is a way to level up their lives as well. Now, currently the market is in the green. This is definitely news to celebrate today. The Dow is currently up 240 points. The Nasdaq's up 185 points, and the S&P 500 is also in the positive, over 44 points as well. We've still got about 15 minutes left to go before the market closes, but so far it's looking pretty positive, and hopefully that'll end in positive territory as well. Now, some of the areas that are doing well I wanted to share with you, of course, is what they're calling kind of a tech rally today. We'll take it. And of course, inflation data has come out from the producer price index showing a 0.2% increase in August, which aligned with expectations. Now, this is following a lot of report about declining core consumer inflation. And so this helps us anticipate that the Federal Reserve's upcoming decision this month, that perhaps we might even get a half percentage point rate cut during the September 17th to 18th meeting. Now, I will caution that I would say you should expect probably about a 0.25%. But if we get a half percent point rate cut here, then certainly we will take it. But jobless claims saw a slight uptick as well at 230,000 filings for the week ending last week, September 7th. So despite recent volatility, sort of a consensus is that they do feel that the Fed is managing the soft economic landing pretty well, and that they're monitoring inflation and they're really leading us to where we need to be. So we might get to a point where we're going to have some good news probably sooner rather than later. And so you're seeing some of that optimism in the financial markets being reflected today as well. So yes, the consumer price index report does show how inflation is affecting American households. So this is some pretty good news, but I want to share with you as well. With overall inflation rising about 2.5% over the past year, prices compared to previous periods, this is something that I think households can feel some comfort in. This also means that while households are still, experiencing higher costs for things like groceries, eggs, milk, cereal, though the pace of these increases is now a lot less severe than it was in previous years. And this was actually shared. The Bureau of Labor Statistics actually had a report that came out once again showing that the price of shelter is up 5.2%, making housing, of course, a significant burden on many Americans. Now, renters and homeowners alike, though, are feeling the pressure when it comes to rent, mortgage payments, and of course, this is taking a big portion of household budgets. In fact, house food prices has increased about 2.1% year over year, with food away from home costing over 4% over the previous year. What is food away from home? We're talking like restaurants, right? Eating out. So families eating out, of course, will see higher costs, but groceries have remained pretty relatively stable in the last year. So this is good news. But there's a lot of other statistics that have come out regarding sort of the inflation of things that we pay for. But overall, the net story here is that we are in a much better situation today than we were in previous years. So that is something that I think you're seeing reflected in the market, and certainly something that we can hold on to and celebrate as a household, right? All right, let's continue to talk because the speculation of like 25 or 50 basis point rate cut next week. Yahoo Finance is reporting that investors, of course, very divided on whether or not the Federal Reserve will cut rates by 25 or 50 basis points in the upcoming FOMC meeting. But economic data and recession concerns, of course, driving uncertainty about the Fed's decision. But overall, a lot of experts are saying that, they're kind of leaning towards a smaller cut due to inflation control, while there are other people on the other side saying they're predicting actually a larger cut to help counteract sort of recessionary fears as well. I don't know. It's really hard to say. If only we knew. I think Fed Chairman Jerome Powell knows. We'll just have to be patient and wait to see what he and his team announce for us in the coming days here. But more than likely, the Fed's choice will likely set the tone for market performance in the coming months, especially as we go into the election period. If you didn't know already, yes, we are in full election mode, and there's been a lot of news. A presidential debate just occurred. And of course, Taylor Swift also came in and chimed about the importance, and we'll share that here as well. The importance of, if you're over the age of 18, make sure to register to vote, because if you don't register, you can't vote. And then take your time to learn about the things that matter most to you, so that when you make your decision on who to vote for, it is truly your decision and not from somebody else. Take the time to do your research, go through the fine print, and make that decision not only for yourself today, but of course for the next 4 years as well, and seeing where you think the future of this country should be at. All right. So very good. I want to continue to talk about the next story that comes from the U.S. Census Bureau. I want to share this because I thought this was really helpful. This is a report that came out this week talking about how about 49.7% of renter households in the United States are currently spending more than 30% of their income on housing costs. And that was in 2023. Now, this affects over 21 million households that continue to rent. And let's be honest, here in the United States, depending on where you live, where you work, most cases you're going to be renting at some point in your life. I certainly did when I came out of college, and even during college. And that was just sort of the way it was. But it would be great if we could all be homeowners, but in some situations, it may not make sense for you. But currently, housing costs for renters has increased from $1,354 to now 14 over $1,400 annually. Now, this is an increase, of course, not that this is the annual somebody would pay, but of course, this is adjusted for inflation from 2022 to 2023. This is that number. And so the rent burden continues to, of course, vary depending on where you live, also your demographics, and different households are, of course, have different responsibilities and different needs, and they live at different places. And that's also impacting how much the inflation has affected them. So homeowners, nearly 18.8 million homeowners, spend more than 30% of their income on housing. I'm sure many of you who are here with me live have experienced that some point in your lives, if not right now. Some of you might actually be making more of your household income or less. I've talked to both in my line of work, but insurance costs have also, of course, impacted those who have mortgages, because unlike renters, not only do you have to pay your mortgage, but you have to pay homeowners insurance and then the cost of repairs and everything else. There's a lot of additional costs that make up home ownership. But the study did show that there was definitely a race-based disparity also on the cost burden of mortgage and rent as well. And if you want to dive deeper into that, I'm not going to go into that today, but if you want to, you can definitely check out that new report that came out this week from the Census Bureau, the U.S. Census Bureau. They initiate a press release, and it's really eye opening. And then I want to continue on because I think many of you saw this on Monday, but if you didn't, well, Apple had their big event, their annual event where they announced their new products. And this one was lots of fun. And let's just say a very glowing moment because they called it, I think, Glow Fest or whatnot. It was really colorful. And unlike previous announcement, what I noticed was also Tim Cook and a lot of the other executives. I noticed that they were actually wearing more color. When Tim Cook first came out, the backdrop of where he was standing, there was a beautiful rainbow. Definitely a lot more color in this year's Apple announcement. And this also trickles, of course, to some of the products that are being released, which are more colorful as well. So this was kind of a neat thing because Apple is unveiling a new iPhone 16 with generative AI. No surprise there. We've been talking about AI quite a bit on this show, but certainly Apple is making a big push on this. This is a story shared on CNN by Samantha Murphy Kelly talking about the brand new AI powered iPhone 16, which launched and which you're able to start to order this week. This is designed specifically, they said, this product, this phone is designed specifically for generative AI with new Apple intelligence features where they showed really cool actually examples, and you're seeing some of that on the screen today where somebody will be walking around, they'll see like this insect, for example, or this plant, and they'll wonder, what is this? Tell me more about this. I don't even know. This will happen. You're not sure what kind of bug is this. You can actually use your phone, scan it, and it'll give you some information and data. They even showed a sample where they had the someone walking and they saw this really cute dog and they didn't know what kind of dog, so they would again use their phone. So it's kind of using generative AI on a simple basis, but certainly very hopeful. And I think it's smart because not everybody is a all-in AI user yet, but for the maybe average Apple iPhone user, this could give them a taste of just AI in your daily lives and how it can make research and understanding and um, you know finding out where you are and what to do so much more efficiently. So with new Apple's intelligence features, users with the phone can now actually create text as well as images using natural language prompts. That's kind of fun. And the phone, of course, offers what I think is so great and why my team is excited about this. We are always paying attention to the camera features. And the new enhanced camera controls, they're pretty cool. And this helps you identify objects like landmarks and animals with their generative AI, their visual intelligence. And of course, be able to pull up information such as restaurant reviews. Like, let's say you're standing in front of a restaurant and you're like, I don't know if this is good. I feel like it's sort of crowded, but it's not crowded. I don't know. Like, should we eat here or should we go to the next restaurant? Well, instead of waiting, right? If you see that they have tables available, you can just use your iPhone's camera, and with visual intelligence, they could tell you whether it's good. You could check from the reviews right away. And of course, Siri can also now manage tasks like sending photos or pulling recommendations from text messages for you, which makes it even more intuitive for users. I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of learning curve, but given how Apple has traditionally been very, very user friendly, I imagine it won't be that difficult. But time will tell. I'm curious to see for those of you, are you jumping on quickly? Are you going to get yourself a brand new iPhone, or you're going to wait? You're going to wait for the next I don't know, iPhone 17, or what's your plan? Definitely put in notes. I'd love to hear from you on that. Now, another thing that we're pretty excited about, of course, is 4K video. The iPhone 16 Pro allows 4K video recording at 120 frames per second. For those of you who are content creators, I know many of you who follow me are, this is probably exciting news for you. And also improving the audio capture. Now, I thought this was really interesting because as someone who creates content myself, I always have my phone with me, but I certainly don't always have my microphone with me. And sometimes, when you're taking video, you're hearing all this noise. But now the phone is going to have improved audio capture and even background noise reduction. So that's going to be pretty cool. So you'll be able to, and they had a sample of this in the Apple event. If you want to watch this, you can definitely go back to the Apple website and you can replay. It might even be on YouTube right now, but you can get a sense of whether or not this is the product or the phone for you. So in addition to Apple's revealing of their new AI phone, they also talked about the new Apple Watch 10, as well as sort of that their Ultra watch as well, and also introducing new updates, which include some health benefits, which I thought was cool. I actually sent this to one of my best friends. Her dad's dealing with sleep apnea. And I'm like, did you know the new Apple Watch 10 looks like the new update is going to include sleep apnea detection, which I learned from the Apple event. I didn't know this previously, that like a large percentage of Americans actually deal with sleep apnea. So this is really good. They said that pending FDA approval, even there's even going to be a hearing aid feature integrated to the new AirPods as well. So that could be kind of cool, especially for maybe people who aren't that comfortable using a hearing aid, but maybe they do need it, or maybe they're in the early stages. This could be like a way where you can use the technology and still stay cool and be able to listen to music at the same time. So let me know. I thought that was nice. I really like what Apple is doing with leaning into things that will make our lives a little easier, right? Giving us that AI, being having access to information quickly. Sure, you could open up a browser on your smartphone, you could do a quick search, but not having to is pretty cool. And so utilizing some of that new technology, visual technology, making your lives just speeding things up, I think will enable people who are like, oh, forget it, it's too much trouble. I'm just going to go in a restaurant and just hope for the best. And then you leave the restaurant and maybe you've paid $20, $30 for a meal and you're disappointed by what you paid for. This could actually save you time, but most importantly, save you money, which I'm all about. But with this, to give you an idea, what doesn't save you a lot of money is actually buying it. So this is a decision you'll have to make with your individual budget. But the iPhone 16 does start at about $800, $799, and the Pro models are going to start at about $1,000, $999. And the Pro Max is the $1199, sort of their flagship iPhone product, if you will. And of course, pre-orders are going to begin very, very soon this week, I believe. And I think if you do pre-orders, I think then you are able to get your phone around September 20th, plus or minus. Yes, I see Joshua. I see CrossX Fighter saying that CrossX Fighter is a Android user. Lots of Android users out there. Nothing wrong with that. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of great technology and tools coming on that scope as well. And we'll definitely try to incorporate that when we see that as well. But let us continue. Speaking of Android, Joshua, this is a good one. This is talking about Google and Apple in one story. This is a story shared from the New York Times this week, talking about how Google and Apple are facing significant penalties because unfortunately they've lost some court battles in the European Union. They filed appeals and of course they've lost. This is reported by the New York Times by Adam Satariano and Jenny Gross. Apple now is required, unfortunately, to pay a whopping $14.4 billion in unpaid taxes to the country of Ireland after the European Union's top court ruled against their appeal. Now, this case, of course, is the history behind this case is basically it came from a 2016 decision which accused Apple of benefiting from illegal tax agreements with the Irish government. So, yeah, now they owe billions. And Google, on the other hand, must also pay $2.6 billion following their own failed appeal over an antitrust ruling for favoring its own price comparison service and search results. So these penalties are just showing that the European Union is not messing around. They are absolutely going full force aggressively with their regulatory actions under the European Union's new antitrust chief, who has become a key player in sort of global tech oversight. So Google now faces additional fines, including $4.8 billion for, get this, is Android operating system practices, is from 2018, and another $1.66 billion from its unfair digital advertising practices, that's from 2019. So now you've got both Apple and you've got Google here under antitrust scrutiny here in the United States as well, with Google now facing accusations of going full on monopoly esque in its search engine and its Play Store as well. So the big no there. But the appeals, of course, the protracted appeals now process has drawn a lot of criticism, and many are saying that this has allowed these tech giant companies to just strengthen their market dominance during the legal proceedings, and so things have to change. But there's more. The most important thing is we want to know how you feel about that. Do you feel like these tech companies are getting too big? Do you feel like monopoly is an issue that countries and provinces and you know everybody else should be aware of? Should they take a stance? Should governments have a say on how big these companies can be? And at what point is it too much, and should governments just leave them alone? I want to know your feeling about that. I have my feelings, but I'm more curious about how you feel about this. Now, speaking of technology, I want to talk about NVIDIA. Now, NVIDIA CEO, for those of you who don't know, this is shared on CNBC, Jennison Huang is NVIDIA CEO. And I thought this was great because we've heard a lot of people talk about this already, but he is stating that we are officially now in the beginning of a brand new industrial revolution, of course, driven by AI, by artificial intelligence. And of course, NVIDIA and the business that they're in, that we've talked about now AI being in the brand new Apple iPhones and them kind of leaning in that direction. But Jennison Huang is emphasizing that this transformation could completely reshape not only how we use our smartphone and how we create content and how we, write and how we communicate and proofread and all those things that we've been using AI for. But he's also saying this could completely reshape healthcare and other sectors such as manufacturing in very profound ways, not only for us, but also for future generations. And they're saying that with their company's leadership and many other companies who are in the AI space, that this could be really interesting time that we're living through. For those of you who have been around like I have, you probably remember when the World Wide Web, when the internet first started. And I actually remember, this might date me, but I remember a time when there was no internet, and the time after that there was internet, and just an incredible amount of resources and information changing during that time. But when you live through it, sometimes you don't recognize and realize how incredible it is. So I wanted to share his comments with you on that, just to give you that sort of take a pause and recognize that we're going through this new industrial revolution with AI, and take note and just really enjoy it while it's taking place. And we can kind of continue to discuss it on this show, of course. But I want to hear from you. What are the things you like and don't like? What are the things you're concerned about? And what are the things that you're hoping to see with AI? Of course, there's a lot of concerns that I have with security and technology, and of course, privacy and truth. Let's talk about that. Real truthful information being shared, right? And that things and like images of people that are real, and audio that you're hearing is real. But of course, it also excites me in the future and the potential of AI to be able to solve many health issues in the future, for example, and other things as well. All right, let's continue on. And I've got another story that I want to share that was shared on New York Times, talking about, get this, General Motors and Hyundai are actually going to come together and partner to develop a new vehicle, whole bunch of new technology, if you will, for vehicles. Now, you might not have seen that one coming. I didn't see that one coming. So Neil Boudet is sharing this on the New York Times, talking about how the two companies, American, Korean, are coming together to collaborate on new vehicle models And they're going to be focusing on new ways to power these vehicles as well, with electricity, of course, electric internal combustion, and even hydrogen powered vehicles. Now we've heard about that already. Now it's not just EV cars, hydrogen powered vehicles. This is something a lot of car manufacturers seem to have their eyes on. Now, this partnership, they say, is the plan is to help reduce costs, to improve speed to market, and of course, to strengthen supply chains. And I would think that when you have two major car manufacturers coming together, Jet just seems like it would be a brain trust of efficiency. And perhaps this is a way to further decrease our carbon footprint and still get people to where they need to get to be, right? Through transportation. But sharing of information, I kind of love the fact that you have two major companies from two different countries coming together. That I think is what a global economy is all about. But both companies are seeking to boost competitiveness, of course, in the face of the sort of cooling demand for electric vehicles, believe it or not, due to high prices and, of course, charging concerns. But nonetheless, they've signed a non binding agreement to explore collaboration opportunities. Although no specific projects or timelines have been currently shared, we can only anticipate some exciting things coming from these companies coming together. Now, do you know that there have been past automotive partnerships that have come together and have had mixed success? But GM and Hyundai are really optimistic, and so we wish them the best of luck. And we're definitely going to follow that closely to see what the two companies come about. All right. Speaking of cars, I wanted to segue over to this for you, and this is being shared from The Verge. The Verge, GM and EVgo, well, they're going to be building more flagship EV charging stations. Now, if you drive an electric vehicle, as I do, one of the pain points of driving an electric vehicle is that when you drive it and you're almost out of electric range, you got to stop and charge. And charging, frankly, takes a lot longer than filling up the tank. But that being said, you know, I've always said that, well, they should really consider adding other services around charging, right? Like maybe where you can charge and I don't know, it's like right by the post office or near a Amazon return station or like a supermarket or something. So that way at least you can get other things done at the same time. But let's be honest, a lot of times you're actually charging because you're driving maybe longer distances, which could translate to staycations or road trips. And therefore, sometimes it's harder to plan. So it'd be good to have those places just conveniently with where you're charging at. Well, GM and EVgo are building these really cool charging stations, if you will, and they're going to be across 7 different states, including Arizona, New York, and here in California. They're going to be 400 of these EV charging stalls offering up to 350 kilowatts, which is fast charging speeds. And each site is going to contain about 20 different stalls. So they're designed to not only be convenient, but also they're going to have sort of gas station like canopies, which, by the way, I love that idea because I've charged many places with no canopies where it gets really hot. You're just sitting there under the sun for like almost an hour charging your car. They're going to have security cameras and they're going to be located near shopping and dining areas. So that's great. So let me know how you feel about this. But this is, of course, planning to come out soon. And General Motors is also planning 2,000 of these fast chargers, and they're planning to have them at Pilot and Flying J travel centers, which I think is really smart because those are typically places that you would fill up gas, and there's a convenience of having a store and especially restaurant facilities and things like that. So, which I think is good. I think charging places need to have those things in place as well. Now, the first of these new urban flagship stations is expected to open early next year in 2025. Okay. Now, speaking of travel, let's continue. I promised that we're going to have a lot of things to cover today because it didn't come to you live on Tuesday. And this is definitely the case. Speaking of travel, rising airline prices unfortunately are going higher, shared by CNBC, Leslie Josephs. Netland, the basic idea is US inflation data shows a 3.9% rise in airfare prices in August. So things are just getting more expensive. Alaska Airlines raised Delta Airlines also predicting minimal price changes as well. Hiring freezes are an issue. Airlines are also cutting back on capacity growth. So all of these things is going to lead to higher prices. So if you are looking to travel next year, my suggestion is to plan early, look at itineraries, try to book sooner rather than later. If you can, book a refundable fare, and then during the year, check back on your itinerary. If you can find something lower cost, then you can change your reservation and get some money back. But nonetheless, that's the case. And speaking of travel, some actually, quite a few people just got off the ultimate world cruise. This was shared on CNN Travel, Francesca Street talking about a 9 month cruise. That's crazy. 9 months on a cruise ship. Well, what else is 9 months? I remember when I was pregnant for 9 months. It was a long time, but 9 months on a cruise ship, sailing to over 60 destinations. This is Royal Caribbean has just finished this. The Serenade of the Seas carried passengers on a really unique adventure for 9 months. And I guess they had a bunch of social media influencers on the cruise, of course, TikTokers and passengers and influencers. Some people actually were doing daily TikToks even. And I guess people are predicting that there would be like sort of reality TV style drama, but they said surprisingly it was quite peaceful and people actually felt like they made new friends and developed a family atmosphere. And major instances like divorces or conflicts didn't really take place. So that's great. But they did say that some of the passengers did feel like they made lifelong friendships and connections during their journey. People like Brandy Lake, Anthony McWilliams, also influencers, said that travelers were like families. But they did say that many people reflected and said that they missed their family members and friends who weren't on the boat with them. But the question, of course, comes is Royal Caribbean going to continue to make these ultimate world cruises? And they're saying nothing's on the forefront right now, nothing's on the plate right now, but they might try to do something similar, but probably a little bit shorter. But you know what's really great about cruising? Now, I haven't been on a cruise since the beginning of the pandemic, but I will say one of the things that's great about the cruises is typically if you go on the right cruise, they have an amazing, amazing food. And speaking of food, I wanted to share with you that, well, speaking of food, I guess it can kind of correlate also to beverages. And, well, Starbucks' new CEO, Brian Niccolo, who, by the way, really, you remember from like 2 weeks ago, we were talking about on this show about how Brian Niccolo, I think it's cool because he's actually commuting. He's not actually in Starbucks' headquarters, but he actually commutes from here in Southern California, where he has a young family and really embracing sort of that like hybrid work experience. Well, he's going all in. He has big plans for Starbucks. Now, if you've been to Starbucks lately, let me know if you've experienced any of these things and if you like what he is talking about, because he's saying that he wants to return Starbucks to its sort of core values of being that feel good, welcoming coffee house where it's about high quality, handcrafted coffee. And he's saying that, with things that have really changed is these overwhelming menus, inconsistent products, and of course, long wait times, key areas that need to be fixed. And so he wants to bring back that emotional connection that you have with your barista and that human interaction that once made Starbucks special, similar to the vision and founder Howard Schultz of Starbucks. So under previous leadership, of course, Starbucks sort of shifted more towards soft drinks, which were caffeinated soft drinks, and streamlined processes, which they said actually diminished that barista centric experience that you may have come to enjoy when you first started going to Starbucks. But yes, they're saying that that's going to be changing. And so let me know how you feel about that. He came from Chipotle, he has big plans to make things better. And yeah, I mean, let me know. I need to hear from you because this is an area I don't do. I don't know well. I will be honest with you. I'm not a caffeine drinker, so I wouldn't know. I'm not exactly the person that they need coming in through the doors. And speaking of other things, I want to share with you a little changes on food because I want to make sure to always alert you of trends that are happening that could impact your financial bottom line and life in general. And this is a big one. CNN is reporting about of course, actually no, let me circle up. Yahoo is reporting this one, talking about an egg recall that's occurred in 9 different states after a salmonella outbreak has occurred and has had Americans go into the hospital because of this. So salmonella contamination, okay? Milo's Poultry Farms LLC has recalled their their brand of eggs, Milo's Poultry Farms, and also Tony's Fresh Market branded eggs due to a potential salmonella contaminations. Now, these eggs have been distributed in multiple stores and restaurants in Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, and Colorado, Illinois, so many different states, and even here in California. So far, 65 people have actually fallen ill, with 24 of them having to be hospitalized. The CDC is warning of symptoms like diarrhea, fever, vomiting, dehydration, and especially for those vulnerable groups. So, in case you didn't know, pay attention. Make sure you don't own eggs from those two places, because if so, you might want to think about um, disposing of them. But experts are recommending, of course, that you thoroughly cook your eggs to 160-degree Fahrenheit, and of course, avoid currently eating raw or even runny eggs. Now, I don't know if that includes like soft egg boilers. I don't know. But nonetheless, if you purchase any of these eggs or experience symptoms, it's really important to contact your healthcare provider and, of course, Milo's Poultry Farms for further information on what to do next. Okay. And this, of course, is the next one. This is coming from CNN. Also, another thing to put on your radar: high levels of lead have been detected in multiple spice brands. Now, 12 brands of cinnamon and spice brands have been found to contain unsafe levels of lead. This is according to the Consumer Reports investigation. So pay attention to that as well. I guess a brand by EGN and Mimi's products. So Paris as well. They have actually halted sales of affected products, but nonetheless, if you bought spices recently, probably a good idea to check and just to make sure. And because, as you know, lead exposure is a big thing, and even in small amounts, it can actually cause severe health problems, especially for kids, which can affect brain development and the nervous system as well. So, although the FDA hasn't set a formal limit for lead in spices, levels above a certain level could trigger recalls in many places. So pay attention to that. And if you feel like you might not feel well after having food with spice, definitely maybe a good thing to get checked out. But nonetheless, people are advised to stop using affected products. And if you want to check to see if the item in your cupboard is one of the ones impacted, you can check Consumer Reports for updates with that as well. Okay. So, thank you so much, my friends, for tuning in. I hope that you've had a great week so far. I'll tell you, this is how the market closed today. The Dow closed up 235 points. Nasdaq closed up 174 points. S&P 500 up 41 points as well. So positive across the board. Very, very good news. Thanks so much, my friends, for being a part of today's Level Up. Please do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated on all the latest content and to watch past full episodes of Level Up with Winnie Sun. Definitely check out NASDAQ, Amazon Fire, Samsung, LG, Roku, and many other streaming platforms. Of course, it's always on social media as well. And when sharing the episode online, thank you so much for tagging at Winnie Sun. We couldn't do it without you. And thank you so much for taking that time. Thank you for letting people know about our show. Wouldn't be here without you, and I truly don't take it for granted. Very, very grateful to all of you. And thank you so much for the messages and sending me article ideas and story ideas. It's awesome. And of course, if you want to check out on your next road trip, Yes Factor with Winnie Sun, that's our podcast. And you can find that on any platform that you tune in for podcasts. With that, be well. I'll see you again very soon. Bye bye now.